What you are about to hear will blow your mind and give you six-pack abs without even exercising.
Pull up a bar stool and relax.
Hey, who wants to have some fun?
You've made it to Happy Hour with John Gaskins.
Oh, no. Not again.
Get ready for entertaining local and regional sports talk that will change your life. Or not.
And by the way, when you're telling these little stories, here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
Here's your host, John Gaskins.
Here's Johnny. Hello! Ah!
I'm back, baby! I'm back!
There she is. Thank you, Tiffany. Appreciate it. Gateway Lounge, Tuesday afternoon. No better place to be. And if you're watching the old Happy Hour with John Gaskins, SiouxFallsLive.com with the tremendous video work of our video producer, Cordell Wright. You may notice that this is not Zach Borg joining me on a Tuesday.
Not Matt Zimmer.
You are Zach Borg.
I am Zach Borg. I wouldn't mind having Matt Zimmer's beard because I could never really grow a beard. My dad has a wonderful beard, but no, it's not. It's not nobody's listening anyway. Although nobody might be listening.
From
anyway.
this position, 2 feet away from you, I'm okay with not staring at Matt Zimmer's beard.
We are both middle-aged guys,
Yep,
sports journalists, whatever you want to call us.
And we're here to toss around the hot summer local sports topic, of which they're
Emphasis
hot.
on hot, especially right now.
Because, it's filthy gross outside. And there really aren't any, but we're here to, there's some things.
It's heating up.
Well, there's a couple today, this particular Tuesday, the last day in June. Just want to cheers my Mick Ultra Zero to your Coke.
Diet Coke. It would be Coke Zero. Unfortunately, they don't yet have Coke Zero, but I am kind of on the Matt Zimmer train of Coke Zero is better than Diet.
I'm on that train as well. Happy LeBron's going to announce what his next move is day. The world is waiting.
Not quite like the original announcement.
But not until we've started. Yeah, is he taking his talents to the Golden Gate Bridge or not? We'll see. But we're not here to talk about that. We could, but that's not at the top of our list. And tomorrow is officially the first day of North Dakota State football as an FBS team. So we will dig into how well are they going to do? How much interest is there on our part to watch a bunch of games? Because they're almost all going to be on national TV. And Zach has perspective. He went to Colorado State University. He witnessed
I am now an alumni of the Conference of Champions. Well, I guess in about 12 hours, I'm an alumni of the Conference of Champions. So,
yes, the
Pac-12. So to all you, because we always hear from a lovely contingent of NDSU trolls, apparently more so now than ever.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the mountain, whatever it is now. I am a member of the Conference of Champions, though,
the
and
Pac-12.
I firmly snub my nose at you. Bear in mind that just because we cover SDSU, we're not SDSU fans.
Yeah.
My alumnus is Colorado State, so congratulations on your little conference. Have fun in that old league that we left behind.
He lived in the real Mountain West Conference back in the day. And also, Zach, if you didn't know, covered some North Dakota State football and all sports in Fargo in television 2006 to 10. We also are going to get into some Bison news of their basketball coaches. This all pertains, remember, NDSU still in the Summit League for all the other sports. And both their men's and women's coaches got contract extensions, which has a lot to do, therefore, in my opinion, at least this next year or two, about how things will shake out on the men's and women's side and what this means for the Jackrabbit and Coyote programs. Not that we're really surprised for now Dave Richmond and Jory Collins are staying in Fargo, but the fact that they get contract extensions is news because one of our South Dakota Division I coaches didn't get one and is stringing out the last year of his current deal, Eric Peterson. And if you want to hear us chat about that and plenty more Coyote basketball, check out Happy Hour from last Thursday. I want to start, though, with Jackrabbit football. They had a huge event, and it's a huge part, and could be, of a possible era in the FBS. I don't think I'm stretching it here. If you want to join the FBS and join North Dakota, have some North Dakota State and have some Dakota Marker games someday, it's going to take a lot of money, and you need all the help you can get. And so events like the Jackrabbit Former Players Association they put on raised a bunch of money, but also certainly it brought them down to Sioux Falls, basically the whole football operation, bunch of famous alumni. And you were there not to cover it, but to enjoy it with your kid.
Well, one of the nice things I've had this past year working for Forum Communications a bit, Midwest Sports Plus, Sioux Falls Live, get that plug in here. Obviously, we got our mic flags.
You're the pro. I should have done it. Yes. Zach is with us here at Midwest Sports Plus, in case you didn't
We
know.
also use pro loosely on that term, especially with me. But, no, this is the 5th year they've held a youth football camp in Sioux Falls, and they actually kind of expanded it a little bit this year. There was actually a cheerleading camp for girls, which was a new thing, too, which was pretty popular. There was it was over at the Sanford Crossing for the soccer facility. On one side, you had all the kids. It was kindergarten through 8th grade, and then you had on the other field were young girls with the cheerleaders doing it. So that was kind of a cool thing to see that they included that element. But a year ago, I was still working in TV, and I just covered it professionally. But my son is going to be going into kindergarten here. He'd be turning 6 here in another 2 months, so I'll be playing flag football here, which is boy, you talk about time flying.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we got to enroll him in that, and it was only $50. I mean, it was just an incredible deal. There were players from the current SDSU, coaches were there, Dan Jackson, Isaiah Davis, Dallas Beanham.
Nice.
The name of, ironically, I did a feature on the guy when he played for the Chiefs. He was their former offensive lineman who played in like the 2013s. But so you had a lot of alumni there.
It's a long time ago. It's okay.
Yeah. No, my brain. There's not a whole lot going on.
13 years ago. It's all a blur to me.
But just really good community engagement. Again, I don't know what and that JFPA. I can't think of many alumni groups that do what they do for a group like that. And I know you've had Ryan McKnight on a number of times. The helmets that they bring back, they always kind of have those unique helmets. They give back a lot, and I can't think of a group that's been so connected over the years. It does as much as it does for a football program. It's just kind of they are going to be a big driver if this program does one day get to FBS, which I think it's going to eventually happen.
Yes.
And I don't know how much money it raises in that point, but boy, when you can come down and start getting, and my son, like, how many events are there for kindergartners? There aren't that many events for kindergartners for football, which is why that's part of the reason my son, we got him in there, and I just got to be dad and follow him around. I wasn't shooting it. There's not going to be any story on it. That would have been a conflict of interest to do anything on that. But when you can get down here early and start getting those, and they've been doing a lot of camps across the state too, to be fair. When you can, you want to be South Dakota State. That's where you start. Is you start going, you get them early.
Absolutely.
That's where you can get your hooks in them and really work it.
And
8th grade, up through that level.
I mean, and I'm going to guess your son had a good time.
Oh yeah, got a lot of autographs. Still. At that point, you're still. I don't know how much you actually learn football at that point in the time, but it's all about having fun, and everybody had a blast. There's a lot of freebies. You got a free football. And for $50, my God, you're not
a couple coupons to Culver's, which I
you
know
get free ice cream.
There you go.
Adults, they had. Ryan brought the big smoker. There were ribs for the adults had plenty to do. So.
Yeah.
That's a great event, and I can't say enough about what that is for. If you're a parent, it's a good deal.
It's smart. It's not just about the money. It's primarily, I think, a fundraiser for the JFPA, which pours all of its money back into the South Dakota State football program. So this is separate from NIL. You mentioned some of the things it is paid for, the kind of things that players who want to play college football think are really cool, that make a program feel like a big-time program, which South Dakota State probably needs more of now that North Dakota State is in the FBS. We've talked about this extensively. I know you've tweeted about it extensively. If SDSU and North Dakota State are competing for the same players now, of course they are, the great football players in the Dakotas. We've seen plenty of North Dakotans play for the Jacks. We've seen plenty of South Dakotans play for the Bison. And now you have a complete separator. One is playing at a higher level. You can bemoan or dismiss what the Mountain West Conference is now, but it is a higher level. Or, of course, for the time being, SDSU can sell, you're going to play for national championships. We've talked about this ad nauseum. I have with Matt Zimmer. I have with Curtis Riggs. More players than not, we agree, want to play at a higher level. it is going to be harder, certainly, a little harder to keep the best South Dakota players here if North Dakota State. I think you would agree that it's harder. It's not going to make it It's not going to make it impossible, but it's going to be really hard to get the North Dakota kids, I think, to South Dakota in the time being that NDSU is up there, SDSU is down here. So my point in bringing all that up is, again, and this could be very short term if the Jacks join the FBS within the next 2, 3, 5 years, but. As you said, you need to get them young. Smart of them to hey, kindergartners can come on in because, of course, you're going to take in more money because you're allowing more age groups, more people to participate. But also, I mean, yes, you get it into the brain. Jackrabbits, I like these guys.
Yeah.
And that's how you sustain in a world where it's sometimes tough to sustain fandom.
And this has been going for 5 years. This was before NDSU goes FBS. They've been doing and building this every year, and the numbers seem to be growing. And then, even just the fact you added the girls' camp, you're adding, another element there. Yeah. So it's a big deal. And again, I think with what we're seeing with NDSU and how that's going to affect this whole area and whether SDSU goes, it's going to be a long-term thing. Everybody's going to get this sugar rush now of what's going to happen over the next year or two. But, I go back to when these moves were made 20 years ago when these programs went up. And you mentioned my history when I started in Fargo in 2006 professionally. The tagline back then was, "Will you be there?" in the Fargo Dome, because there used to be attendance issues at the end of Division II era, and we know some of the things that they kind of tired. The national championship, they were kind of over the FCS scene, and I get why the move needed to be made. But we're going to find out over the next 10, 20 years. Okay, what was the true effect of this once the initial rush? What if they adjust to it? What if they're just as dominant in the Mountain West? Because there's no other move to make after this point. There's not, they're probably not going to the Big 12 if they do really well in the Mountain West, or the Big 10. Maybe they can move to the maybe the Pac-12 someday comes after them. I don't know, but
anything's possible these days.
There's no other move up. We know there's probably no national championships ever happening unless there's a Group of 6 playoff. So. How does that affect recruiting? I don't really know. I think North Dakota State's going to have to kind of expand their recruiting boundaries a little bit because now they're going out to California. Yeah. Now they're going to the Southwest. They're going to have to recruit a little differently. So are they really going to spend as much time up in the Dakotas and Montanas? They really haven't since Tyler Roll left that program. That's been an issue too. So they're going to have to change a little of how they recruit because they're going to different parts of the country now. And they're also going to be a bit more of a bigger national brand, quote unquote. We'll see how these things play out, but we're not going to really know the effect of that move, I think, for another decade or two because it takes time to figure out how these things kind of seep in. What will be the effect of how many kids are going to be leaving? Right now I know of at least, I think, one kid verbal, I think, from Watertown or something up to North Dakota State. I don't know if this year will tell the tale if a bunch of kids are going to go to NDSU or not. But in another 10 years, 20 years, we'll see what the effects are going to be. And by that point, who knows if SDSU or eventually I think SDSU, I don't know about USD. I think that's no disrespect to the Coyotes. I just think there's some things there that have to be put in place. But eventually I think SDSU is going to get there. I mean, I was also at their scholarship fundraiser where they raised $3 million. Every year they're raising record funds.
Yes.
The big thing now that's the new element that got put in this year when you had both NDSU and Sac State go up is the $15 million, I think it was, for NDSU, and then the $20 million Sacramento State paid to go to the MAC. Okay, now you got – that's the big difference now. NDSU for years probably deserved that FBS call-up. Now somebody said, okay, write us a check. Now can you pay that check? That seems to be the dividing line now.
Yeah.
Is SDSU going to be able to pay that check? Is there going to be a check in the future? The line constantly moves, and with realignment, you can't predict it from year to year. A year ago at this time, I don't think anybody thought NDSU was moving. And then all of a sudden, the line moves. The line always moves in realignment.
The conversation from prominent Fargo media, first among them Mike McFeely, was that it was kind of like, we give up. Because McFeely had been on this crusade for 5 or 6 years. And he was highly criticized, if not... what's the word? Lampooned.
Ostracized, whatever,
for it, especially from South Dakotans. But he actually was kind of giving up because that's how well North Dakota State was hiding all this. that he just is like, I guess we're just going to have to be in the FCS forever. And then all of a sudden this came out of nowhere. Anything goes. It's hard to make bold predictions on what's coming next year, next 2 years, next 5 or 10 years in college football and college athletics. And this is one of them. And I want to go back to what I was saying a few minutes earlier, because people can mistranslate. I'm not predicting like, South Dakota's going to lose all of its best football players to North Dakota State, because you're right. The Bison aren't just going to be recruiting the Dakotas. They've been able to go down to Florida and get some players nationally, but they are a more national team. That's always what going to a conference that has a different and larger geographic footprint is going to do. You're going to be able to get some kids from Colorado, where there's a healthy population base, in California, because that's just what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Their mom and dad. It's a plain flight league, but then again, with NIL, there's so many flying parts here. That's part of your NIL deal. Is they'll fly mom and dad who normally in the past wouldn't be able to afford a plane trip to go see this game, that game, all the games. Some of the better players they will, but they'll want to come. They'll get to come home, and if they're from California, somewhere near a team in California they're playing, San Jose State, I guess. Then that's the chance for their family and friends to come see them watch.
We've
them play
seen kids at NDSU and SDSU pass up Power 6 offers before when they were when they were obviously FCS.
Yeah,
everybody's got their own fit. It's about finding the place where you feel like you're going to play and have a chance to play, and then they might well hop in the portal before you know.
Yeah.
It's just a different climate right now with realignment. You referenced the way Mike and a lot of them had kind of obsessed about it. My advice to the people here in South Dakota, and I've heard Jackrabbit fans increasingly start to say, maybe we need to start thinking about this more and more. It's not quite to that level yet. I'll kind of parrot something Zim had kind of said over the years. Just live your life. Like, for Jackrabbit fans, I kind of wondered, okay, when the Bison made this move, well, what's going to be the reaction? Will there be a little bit of disappointment? Are they going to start to maybe be like, well, do we need? I haven't heard a whole lot of like, oh my God, we need to get the FBS right now. Whether I've been at these functions or whatever, it seems like they're pretty like, no, we just need to focus on our own house. And that's what I would just say right now for the fans. Like, worry about what you got right now. Enjoy the football season. Just get out, support your teams. Let kind of the landscape shift. Make your voice known. If you want them to go up to FBS, sure, but it's one of those things where you just kind of live your life, enjoy the product.
Be where your feet are is what they all say.
I think that's
yes and no.
Thing.
Being ready to go
I
to
think
the
being
FBS
ready to
someday,
go is the key.
that takes a lot of preparation. That takes years of planning in advance. From the people within the athletic department, if they want to go someday, they better start planning and fundraising for it right now. Pretty sure they are.
I think they are, but the thing is, they're not going to drop the details. So look at how secretive that process was. Yeah. And look at what Sacramento State did on the other hand. They kind of put it out in the open for the last 2 years, and then they ended up getting this MAC. I guess you could say it worked, kind of. They're paying $20 million, and they're paying everybody to fly into them. Mm-hmm. But I certainly don't think it worked exactly how they wanted it to go. They wanted to be in the Pac-12. They wanted to be in the Mountain West. They're in the MAC, so it worked. But the process, whenever it happens, it's going to hit suddenly and like a bomb. These things, the landscape changes. You cannot predict realignment. You can't predict things.
Well, the goalposts are always moving. There are some things that might prevent SDSU from moving up. It was much easier for schools like Missouri State, James Madison to move up when they did, because I think it cost $5,000. Now it costs $5 million but North Dakota State had the money to do that, but they will keep needing money. It's their football budget right now is $8 million, and according to McFeely, which is according to people who know what it takes to run a football operation in that market, in that level, it's going to be twice that much. And so I don't know where all the money comes from. In North Dakota State, there's a lot of people in oil, a lot of people there's some money up there in North Dakota.
Yeah, the oil money's there.
We're a wealthy town here in Sioux Falls as well, but I don't know if there's as much. But Fargo is right there. You have a lot of alumni at NDSU, more people invested, whereas Sioux Falls has a lot of transplants from the outside. There's a healthy school spirit, fundraising at the FCS level. The SDSU is in a wonderful position where their feet are, What we don't know is how equipped they are or will be in a year or 2 or 3, if they are even allowed to, if it's even possible to move up, if they'll be ready. But the Justin Sell and Dan Jackson, they will always say, we'll be ready. We need to do everything we can to be ready if and when that happens.
I do think Justin Sell, and he's always kind of had that foresight. I mean, anytime there's been a coaching opening, he's always kind of had that list right there. So I think that planning is there. It's going to come down to the bigger wigs probably and the bigger boosters. I mean, if those people want to go FBS, put your money where your mouth is at that point. But it's not something I think you stress over and like, oh, my God, if we don't go FBS, the program's going to be – no, I think they're going to be fine. But, you just have to kind of be ready when the opportunity comes, if the opportunity comes, because the landscape shifts, the rules of the game. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it's, geography is always going to be against you. Or, TV market's always going to be against you. Now it's, you better have a paycheck ready. Who knows what it's going to be in 5 years, 10 years. You just have to be ready when the time comes, when the market changes, as to use a business term.
Yeah.
I don't think you just spend your, you can't be like, the everything's collapsing, we're going to be stuck here forever. Just be ready, be patient, and make your move when the time is right.
My impression is most Jackrabbit fans are very content right here with an eye on the future of FBS. I don't feel too much black and white, like we got to go FBS right now, or we never want to go FBS. That would suck. We don't need that. We are not as bored with SDSU football in FCS as North Dakota State fans were. Their attendance declined and declined. They mastered it. They mastered and ruled and dominated like few teams at any level in the history of sports have ever dominated their sport nationally. They won 10 titles in 11 and 14 years.
By the way, that wouldn't hurt for SDSU. I'm sure they want to go win some more national titles. They've been coming off a down year too.
And most of their games, except for the South Dakota State game every year, 1 or 2 others, and then their last playoff game or 2. But most of their games, 60 to 70% were blowouts. They're winning every game by 4 or 5 touchdowns, especially in the Dome. So they actually needed to go to help attendance and ticket sales. They did. The place was only half full to watch Illinois State in their last game in the FCS, which they lost. South Dakota State has only won 2 national titles. They're still just starting to, be able to fill a 19,000-seat stadium for most of the games. That took several years, by the way. It wasn't until they won national championships that place was regularly full. And it's not full for every game still. There's a few games where there's going to be a few thousand empty seats.
That's the challenges you deal with when you're at USD and SDSU. You're not in, you alluded to it, you're not in the central metropolitan area of your state.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think the last time I was on here with you, we alluded to the fact that, in the 1800s or whatever it was, the city of Sioux Falls elected to put the prison here instead of a school.
Yes.
And you wonder how much different things would be if Dana J. Dykehouse Stadium or even the Dakota Dome was sitting up on that hill instead of that prison. Mm-hmm. This could be an entirely different conversation, but it's going to be different when you have to rely on a portion of your population and your base to commute in as opposed to that. So that's always going to be the differentiating factor. But, the way that they are investing at SDSU and USD, that's always going to be a thing that I think separates them from the rest of the FCS, which is what we're seeing. That's been a big divide. A lot of the FCS doesn't invest the way Montana State, the Dakota schools have invested. That's why it has, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, been just a couple of schools that are constantly in the mix in the quarterfinals. Now, this last year was a bit of an exception. You saw Illinois State make that run. Hopefully you'll see a few more schools eventually get in there, but the schools that spend a lot and invest, I think they're going to be the ones that are constantly still in the discussion when that time comes. But I have not gotten that sense from anybody down here, despite what's gone on at Sacramento and in Fargo, that there's a big hurry right now.
There's not a hurry. There's not a hurry, but there's an interest.
I
don't think there's I never want to do that.
And there will be that canary in the coal mine with NDSU. Okay. More with NDSU, I think, than Sacramento, because that's just kind of a different.
Yeah, no. I mean,
that's a weird deal.
NDSU has literally been partners with SDSU in this adventure until now, and so I think to move it forward, the NDSU is going to be the guinea pig, the same way NDSU and SDSU were guinea pigs for UND. And USD, who at first said, we don't want to invest in that. We don't want to go. We'll stay Division II. Well, now NDSU, we get to see how well does the team that was dominating FCS do right away in FBS, because teams that were right up there with them, like James Madison, I mean, obviously they're hitting it big. 9-10 wins out of the gate in the college football playoff last year. So how will they do performance-wise? Also, how will they do financially? You know, we'll be able to hear, we'll be able to see in real time if they've continually are able to raise. They've done enough to get there. Supposedly they're going to get more ticket sales, and that Fargo Dome is going to be sold out again. They're going to get a lot of money from ticket sales and concession sales, and that's not a small amount of dough. They've got the TV contract, which is a much bigger TV contract in the Mountain West than.
Well, I don't know if they get the full value of that for a couple of years.
That's right.
Now. It's going to take a while. They have to wait a few years on that. But
yes.
But
we're going to see how they do, and that could shape SDSU and USD's opinion and UND on if they ever want to do that.
And,
someday.
They're eligible right away. This was the key thing. They're eligible right away for the conference title game, the playoff, Now, I think they were going to go to a bowl regardless, because we've seen this the last couple of years. There's so many bowls in FBS now that there are too few teams to fill them out. Not enough teams get to 6-6 anymore. So we have been seeing teams like Missouri State, who technically wasn't eligible. We were seeing these ineligible teams get a waiver to go anyway. So I think they would have gone to a bowl even if they hadn't gotten this eligibility thing. But the big piece of what that ruling that came down last week was now they're eligible to go to their conference title game. Now they're eligible to get in the college football playoff. So those are some revenue streams that could come in if they make those. I don't know if they're making the college. I know there are some who are going to disagree with. I don't think they're making the college football playoff this year. I think even Brett McMurphy was saying they could get in. He thinks they're going to make it this year. I think this year they lost a lot from last year's team. If this had been last year's Bison team, even though they lost that playoff game to Illinois State, if this had been last year's NDSU team that had gone into the FBS, I would have really liked their chances. Because this Mountain West, and again, this is a guy who went to college in the, as you mentioned at the top, the OG Mountain West with Utah and BYU, and at one time TCU was in it too.
That's right.
Like this is like kind of a gutted Mountain West right now. I mean,
watered down.
UNLV for years was nothing. Now Dan Mullen is. I'm not really sold on Dan Mullen. He's got a lot of SEC cred, and they got a lot of money in that program. Jason Eck,
he won 10 games and won the league in his first
year.
Yeah,
they also went winless against Boise State in his time. But Boise State's gone. You've got a lot of the heavy hitters are gone.
So this makes it easier for NDSU to win right away.
Yeah, and New Mexico. Obviously, we're sold on Jason Eck around here.
Yep.
Their road schedule is really tough this year.
Yep,
I mean, they've got to go. Air Force was down this past year, but it's typically very tough to go to the academy. They have a very difficult style to defend.
They still play
against.
the triple option, don't they?
Kind of modified. Okay. I will say there were people who used to get kind of up in arms with the way SDSU's offensive line would block them. If you hated that, folks, you're not going to like the way Air Force blocks, because if your defensive line makes it through a game healthy in that one, consider it a good week. But it's tough to go to They got to go to Air Force, New Mexico. I think they're going to Hawaii, which is one of the tougher trips in college football.
Yes.
Even though I think they also go to San Jose, so they did not get any favors done. I mean, I think they could run the table at home, but there's probably 3 losses, and I mean, I'm thinking 8-3 is probably what they're going to get.
Well, I think what's going to, and you know what I think is going to happen is, a logical thing to say. I'm not going to boldly predict this, but I think we wouldn't be surprised. I like using that term. You get to November, and again, I don't know how many people are talking about this, but at the moment, NDSU's been a program with 63 scholarship players. That's what you get at the FCS. At the FBS, they all get 85.
And they're not quite up to full power yet on there.
Yeah. So how will there be wear and tear? I mean, I can start as early as New Mexico in Albuquerque, as you mentioned, October 24th. That will be just making sure it's not coming off a bye week. So, and then you get to UTEP, which what the favors that have been done to their schedule is they don't have too many like back-to-back bangers, just like SDSU this year. Their toughest games, some of them you've already mentioned, are kind of spread out. You know, you got to go to New Mexico, but between that and the Hawaii trip, they get UTEP at home. That should be a breather. They're one of the worst teams in the league. And actually, it works out favorably toward the end of the year. I'm contradicting myself because opponent-wise, you should beat UTEP, you should beat Northern Illinois, you should beat San Jose State, even though that's on the road. But what factor, if any, will fatigue play in a program that isn't quite as deep as these others. But I'm thinking 8 or 9 wins for these guys.
I'm kind of and I will say if they do go 10-1, that's also kind of an indictment on how far down. That's no disrespect to them. It's kind of an indictment on where the Mountain West is.
Absolutely.
The team can come, but I think there is. I'm kind of interested to see the contrast in styles because you've got a very physical Midwestern football team coming in, and the Mountain West. What's left of it is kind of more of a speed base that I'll put it nicely toward what's left of the Mountain West. It's not a physical league. It's not been a physical smash mouth league. Yeah. There's a reason that nobody from the Mountain West has played South Dakota State or North Dakota State in the last 5 years. And unfortunately, I think the last time a Mountain West team played either SDSU or NDSU was my former Rams team, and we got pummeled by. Yeah. Not only did we get pummeled by SDSU, I think the last time a Mountain West team played NDSU was also CSU, and that was in 2011 when they got beat like 21-7 in Fort Collins.
Yeah.
So there's a reason Mountain West teams, even the really good Mountain West teams of old, were not picking up the line when North Dakota State or South Dakota State called them. It's not. I mean, this is I think NDSU's style of football, even though they're going to have decreased numbers, is going to be a load for teams that aren't really used to playing physical football. Now, we'll see how that translates. I'm very interested to see that clash of styles between them.
I wonder if that'll work more for them or against them, but I'm inclined to say it would work more for them.
It might initially work a little against them because, like you said, the numbers are down a little bit this year. Yeah. But I think when they build that thing up a little bit over the next 2 or 3 years, then I could see it really taking off in their favor.
Last one along these lines is how much interest do we feel there will be? Because we've spent most of our show here today talking about NDSU football, but I think most people who were tuning in are still listening because whether they admit it or not, I think a lot of Jackrabbit and Coyote fans are going to be watching especially those Friday night games, unless you got kids playing high school. I just think if the kickoff time does not conflict with the Jackrabbit or Coyote game, you're going to at least you're going to be curious.
Check your
you're
phone,
definitely going to check the phone. You're going to see the result. You're going to have a feeling about it one way or another. I don't think it's going to be sayonara. We don't care. You're not in our league anymore. It's going to be how are they doing? I think there's going to be curiosity. Whether there's going to be a cheering for the Bison to do well because they're FCS and MVFC brethren, I don't know. Or if they're going to hope they fall flat on their face because I think it's always fun for anybody outside of North Dakota to see the Bison fall on their face. They don't do it very often, and at one point in time, the Jacks beat them 7 out of 10 times, and that was fun to take down the 800-pound
I'll kind of bookend it with
gorilla.
where I started. Like, let's see where this is in 10 years or 5-10 years. Yeah. I think this first year is going to be a little weird. I think people will be. I think people will be looking. People are going to check. I mean, it's inevitable. It's the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
But we're kind of in the position because you, me, Zim, we've all worked with older people, shall we say, in the media at one point in this, who would tell us about how great the Division II era was.
Of course, the NCC.
Yeah. And now
I believe it.
Now we're kind of stepping into their shoes because we're in this era. Now we're leaving an era of pretty good football.
Yeah.
We had in the FCS with NDSU, so now we're stepping into this new era of them being in the FBS, and potentially things will change down the road there. It'll be interesting to see what this looks like. I don't think anybody's rooting against them or for them. I just think they're kind of going to be keeping an eye on them and seeing, what are they doing? It'll be interesting to see. And their kickoff times are going to be kind of spread all over. So I don't know what that's going to look like. There's going to be, that Hawaii game will probably be at like 11. You're going to be seeing that after dark at like 11 o'clock or whatever.
10 o'clock.
So 10 o'clock, yeah. I mean, so it'll be.
That's one game. I mean, there's a 9 o'clock game in New Mexico.
Games. I think they kind of spread them all over a little bit.
Yeah. But people will know if you're interested. You're gonna. You get on your phone. You find out the kickoff time.
I don't think anybody's gonna be really, other than some trolls will be, doing their thing. I don't think people will be really rooting against him or for him. I think people will be like keeping an eye on it and saying like, okay.
They actually, by the way, I'm checking this out. They only have one Friday game. It's the San Jose State game, and that's Black Friday, 2:30. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm not really. That's one thing I do like about the FCS setup, and that's one thing I'm not going to miss. That's one thing I will miss if one or both these local schools go, is I don't like Friday games. I kind of like the fact that kickoffs are consistent.
Yeah.
I know people differ on that. Like, if I'm a fan, and in some case I have been more of a fan at times this past year, I like being able to plan and know when my games are going to be like, okay, it's going to be 2 o'clock, it's going to be 6 o'clock. I mean, I kind of like that I can have like Saturday. I don't really like games on Friday because I hate that it takes away from the high school spotlight.
Yeah.
Thursday games, Wednesday games, Tuesday games, all that MACtion stuff. That to me is just like, I don't know how people manage that because you're going to work and then you got to get to, I just like having a Saturday. I like that you kind of know when your games are going to be. I just don't like playing games all over the calendar. I know that's a little more old school.
It is. I guess
me.
just as a Husker fan who's been dealing with
and you've been dealing with that more
for 20 years, it's just you get used to it. Well, what time's our game? I don't mind the variety. I don't really like 11 a.m. games. That's too early for me. Well, I love night games because there's electricity. There's all-day build-up.
Yeah.
The way it used to be, the mid-afternoon games, I like the 2:30 window because there's some time before. And I'm talking both as a viewer on TV at home and as someone who might go to the game, tailgate, have some time to tailgate and hang out with old friends and then afterwards have enough time to drive home or keep going out. But I just anymore I just think that's an old relic. I mean, we get the same kickoff time for high school football generally for probably the rest of our lives.
Well, it's funny too because when I was in college, and Mountain West was kind of one of the first. You talk about canaries in the coal mine. It was one of the first conferences that did Thursday night football. Like this was a thing that they kind of originated, and it was a national. Like I would go to games at Old Hughes Stadium where they would play Air Force on Thursday night. You'd have like the prime crew that did like College Game Day was doing the game. You'd have Corso up in the booth, and it was fun. And then all of a sudden, every conference started having a game. There to the point where there were Thursday night games that weren't even televised anymore nationally. Yeah. So it was fun for a while, but now it's just like now when everybody does it kind of takes the special nature of it away. And now it's on Wednesday and Tuesday, and you see that there's half-empty stadiums across the country for these MAC games. It's like, what are we doing at this point just to make some TV money when the MAC is playing on a Tuesday or CUSA is playing on a Tuesday? Just to make a little bit more money on your whatever.
You just answered it. To make TV money, and they need it. All schools need it.
So the almighty dollar.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We've got 10 or, well, I guess it's how much
go for a
time
little while,
you have, 10 or 15 minutes. But so Jory Collins, the NDSU men's coach, women's coach, Dave Richmond, the NDSU men's coach. They both won the regular season this year, and Richmond did the sweep with the SLT.
Yep.
They get contract extensions 5 years, and they're both going through 2030, 31. And we learned of this news the day after we had Eric Peterson, the USD men's coach, on our show talking about his unique situation of his contract not being extended. He coaches this year. He said some people were, including recruits, were misunderstood to think that he wasn't going to come back this year or that he wasn't going to come back the year after that. He still could if his athletic director offers him to do so. And I think we could all surmise, like Eric didn't tell us in the interview. I said, have you been told what you need to do? And he said, we haven't talked about that, but our goal is to win the Summit League tournament anyway. We're in the Summit League. We want to make the NCAA tournament. It's never been done at USD before. That's where our eyes are, and he didn't say it, but yeah, he's got a pretty good chance of keeping his job if he wants it. If USD, if he wants it, and he's not offered jobs to be the next head coach somewhere in a higher level, if USD does that. A lot of carts before the horse there, but I did think on Friday when we learned that those guys at NDSU have some job security, whether they're going to be there for those next 5 or 6 years or not, what a guy like Eric Peterson must have been thinking.
Well, I will say there is a bit of a caveat with Richmond is that he's kind of in a different deal than Peterson, not only because of the success he's had, but Richmond is he's basically a North Dakota native. His dad, I know, coached at the JUCO down in Wahpeton, and he's been there so long now. It gets kind of like with media a little bit. If you're at a place for so long, it gets tougher to leave. And I think there was some rumor, some thought that, well, maybe if Dave's going to leave, this is going to be the year after, he had such a good season. I think they set their program record.
I know you're getting to.
But
let me ask you this, though, Zach.
Yeah.
What if Dave Richmond got offered an incredible job? He hasn't been offered an incredible job yet. Has he turned down a Power 4 job?
Now, we don't know that. We don't know that.
So but in the future, if they keep winning like they do, and somebody finally realizes his record, he's a pretty awesome coach. He's still relatively young. Yeah. He's 50, but he looks and acts more like 35 or 40.
That's fair. Now, we don't know what he has been offered, and I just don't know that there's many Summit coaches who are going to jump from Summit to Power 4. Every Summit coach we've pretty much seen has gone Summit to his predecessor Saul Phillips went to Ohio. We saw Tim Miles go to CSU. Nagy goes to Southern Illinois, goes to Wright State.
Paul Mills did go to Arkansas. I think that's the rare exception.
Paul Mills
there.
went to Wichita State.
Oh, there you go.
So
okay.
Everybody's gone to mid-majors. It's probably, this is unlike, that's pretty much the way it is. So
there you go.
I think with Peterson, it is such a different landscape. I know Zim's touched on this a few times that you're so year to year with your recruiting anyway, but where it kind of gets you is the high school end of it.
Yes.
Because then you're having to go into your mom. You're not just going in with your players. You're going into mom and dad, and you're having to try and guarantee them that you're going to be here. Now, I'm just this is just my opinion. I don't have this on anything, but one would think if they win the Summit League tournament, pretty good chance he's going to be gone anyway, because somebody's going to come calling from one of those mid-major conferences and make him an offer that he can't refuse. And even if he were to say, let's say, make the Summit League title game and lose, we saw that kind of happen with Craig Smith a couple times where they made the Summit League title game, and then he almost went to Drake, which turned out to be a pretty good job down the road, almost left for Drake, and then did leave the following year for Utah State. So he could, in theory, go to that title game, lose, and maybe still get a big job. So it's one of those things where it's a tough position to be in, and I think he's handling it pretty well.
Yeah.
I can't fault the way he's handling it. I'm kind of curious. Paul Sather up at UND kind of had a similar situation this past year where he went in without a contract offer, was doing pretty well for the situation he was in, got them to the title game. I think he got extended during the season.
It was like more toward the end, but I think it was before the Summit League tournament. It was before the
Summit League tournament, got him to the title game, and they gave NDSU a pretty good run in that title game.
Oh, yeah, and he was in his last year?
Yeah, he was in his last year. Could we maybe see something like that happen if Peterson does well?
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's going to be an interesting situation, and what are those benchmarks going to be? Is it just win the title? And we even saw with Wagner, he won the title, but they didn't necessarily win enough. There were other things that happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And then with Jory Collins, you can't fault them for. And again, women's basketball is a little different too. You don't see as much coaching movement necessarily. Sometimes the contracts aren't guaranteed for 5 years the way you get 3 to 5. You don't get multi-year contract guarantees.
Well, he hasn't won the Summit League yet.
And he hasn't won
if you win the tournament, you're gonna have a much better chance to get a job offer.
with the expansion of the tournament, they would have been an at-large this year in the 76 team field. So, but yeah, I think Eric. The one thing he's got to find a way is just to keep a team healthy. That's been the every year now. I remember going to the last media day at the Summit League. I asked him, well, how are you going to keep your team healthy? I think he made something about how they have like some kind of a girdle-type device they're trying to use to train people. They just lose like key players every year. 2 years ago, when they had their 19-win team, Cam Fens went down with a broken foot, I think early in December. And people are like, oh, well, that's not a big deal. We don't even because nobody really knew about him. He was this transfer. Well, it turns out a year later he's all league. They always lose, and last year was just ridiculous. We've been through that.
Yeah.
They've just, I don't know if it's luck or if it's, you got to figure out maybe a way to kind of keep these guys, maybe dial back the training regimen. I don't know. They've got to find a way to keep this roster healthy.
They play at breakneck speed, and I've actually never thought of that until now. Like, does that increase injury possibilities? You got to be in good condition to do it, and they won 19 games using that style. The first year they did it the whole year, they had to stop playing breakneck speed, and Eric will brag about it, and as he should. Like, we're the second fastest team in the country. But last year they couldn't. They had to slow down because they didn't have any depth. So, but he told us they plan to go back to that style this year. But I don't think. I think it's luck. There's been plenty of studies or whatever inquiries done about teams that get injured a lot, and does that fall on trainers, or is it? I think it's more. My guess is it's more luck.
Well, they're due for some good luck.
They are. If there's such thing as law of averages and karma in Eric Peterson's case, because he is a really good coach. They were on the upward trend, and I believe him. I think we could all agree with him. They were going to win 20 or more games if they had a fully healthy or close to, or at least they had Isaac Bruns.
And I guess the last point on that, it's always kind of tough to tell where the Summit's going because it changes every year, but we don't really know this year.
New.
Yeah, every team's new this year, and it looks like St. Thomas, it felt like last year was going to be St. Thomas's year until NDSU kind of ran away with it. Well, it wasn't St. Thomas's year. They got upended by UND, of all teams. Yeah. So it really feels, once again, like it's as wide open as it's going to be. So if their roster is as good as they think it is, why not them? And it's all about those 3 days in March.
That's the good news. And by the way, Eric Peterson, I think we can agree, has proven that he's a pretty damn good coach no matter what his assemblage of players is. Now, his first 2 years, he won 12 games apiece, and that was partly because of what the last administration left him with. But last 2 years, the 19-14, and then last year, obviously, 8 players down, top player in the league, top 10 scorer in the country, Isaac Brunn's down. They win. They go 16-16, and you could make a case he's coach of the year. So even if this lack of any guarantees that he's going to be the coach at USD beyond this year at this moment, even if that hurt recruiting either transfers, probably more so the high school kids. Yeah. He detailed it. Go back and listen if you're a Yotes fan. Everybody's undefeated this time of year, and everybody's going to love and sing praises of their recruiting class. But Matt Zimmer wrote about this as well with the list. Who are these guys? He feels pretty good about this lineup, and so whether he could have gotten even better players if he had some more job security, even if this did hurt him, he's a good enough coach. He just proved it. Take the guys you got and be competitive in every game. And then just, again, with the Summit League, it ultimately, for the big picture things like getting a contract extension or getting the next great job, it all comes down to those 3 days in Sioux Falls. And, it's going to be fascinating to see how that all unfolds. And if he's doing well before the tournament, if he gets that extension like Paul Sather did. We have just a few minutes left. I should have done this more off the top, but I'm glad we just dove into sports.
It's more fun to just roll.
Hey, about a year ago, we were sitting here and we just kind of did the Zach Borg life story conversation for happy hour.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've had an interesting career and you've made a name for yourself in this market for a long time now. And you had just been, I don't know what word you want to use. The first word that came to mind was freed of your local TV job, and both of us are recovering in and out local TV reporters
local
and
media,
anchors.
Yep.
Yeah, we are not tethered to that traditional medium, and everybody in it does a great job. But that's a long way of me asking you, how do you like life on this side as a contributor for Midwest Sports Plus, doing a lot of play-by-play and putting together a lot of excellent feature stories?
It's been great. I mean, it's been a fun year. This has been a great team to work with. First of all, I can shout out Drew Trafton, Mike Capel. Those guys have been great to work with and really kind of enabled me to do a lot of fun stuff. Chad Berger, who's kind of been heading up a lot of production stuff with our play-by-play, and Cordell I've known Cordell for a long time, too. I anchored with him over at Dakota News, and just a lot of great people I've worked with.
Weekends forever.
Weekends forever. A lot of great color guys, going back to football, which will be starting up here before you know it again. James Schrank, the former Augustana offensive coordinator, I think it was Chad who suggested that one. He's like, this guy might be good. And it's like, He's great. He was a terrific find. I'm looking forward to doing games with him again. And then you get to the basketball season. We had so many great basketball guys, and I'm really proud of what we did for baseball season. I mean, we did not know if we were going to do any games. And I'm like, I remember me and a couple other guys were like, we should give these guys some pub, because baseball around here it's unsanctioned, but it hadn't really, you never really saw a whole lot of broadcasts for it. And we ended up doing, in our first year, 2 state tournaments. I think it was 14 games, and the quality looked great. So really proud of what we put together here, and the stories that I've been able to put together. I mean, just there's a lot. I mean, the Brandon Vanderslice one, 2 ones on just some absolute bangers.
Remind us of Brandon Vanderslice.
He was the USD. He ended up winning the Summit League title with shot put. And he recovered from testicular cancer, actually, the year before. There was another one with a golfer. Her name was Peterson over at Sioux Falls Christian. Had a similar story. A year ago, they found a form of cancer that you only find in a 60-year-old. She had a tumor removed, and she ended up playing golf that year. And went from, just some remarkable stories there. And of course, the more recent one I did on the NCAA tournament thing was kind of I've gotten to do some different varieties. You've found these people who've recovered from amazing things. Then you get to do an investigative piece kind of on the NCAA tournament one.
Yeah, that was excellent. Yeah,
and-
because you talked to the person in Des Moines who ran
Yeah.
this thing, who's been trying to get the NCAA tournament to Des Moines for years and years and years, and you kept getting told no, kept swinging, finally got it. So
Yeah, and you know, some of it's just the medium we're in. I mean, you know, it's no disrespect to the previous ones, but it's like TV, you only have so much time. You have advertisements, and you know,
Yes.
you're also trying to get in like 800 games or whatever. It's like, for me, one of my first mentors was Keith Murphy out in Des Moines at WHO TV, and he also kind of recognized where the trends are going, got into podcasting and this kind of medium before everybody. And he's like, you know, more than even though he did games and he's still like a TV anchor, he's like, tell me a story above everything else. That's what connects with people, because I can go up to Madison, or I can go up to, you can show their highlights, but that's probably only going to connect to one people. A story connects with everybody.
Yeah.
And that kind of storytelling is what I really got a chance to do. Drew, I know, has done a great job with the Midwest Made documentaries. Yes. And it's like, I've been able to kind of do that longer form storytelling this year, and that's been just awesome. I mean, it's like, I hope I'm not wasting anybody's time with it, but I've been able to kind of draw those out and kind of like be able to fully tell it the way I want to. And it's just been a blast. I mean, there was one I got to do during state championship football with Howard, where I was in their locker room. I didn't even say a word during that piece. That was just let them narrate it and go.
Very cool.
And, so those are the type of stories that I'm always kind of looking for. And, but, also going out for the Summit League with you guys and doing the post-game wraps, stuff like that. It's been a lot of fun. And it's just, it's allowed me to grow in different ways. Getting to do play-by-play was something I said last year was a dream I've had. And, it's everything I wanted that to be and more. I've gotten to grow. And, in this industry or anything you do in life, you just want to kind of grow. And I kind of stagnated, been doing the same thing for too long, and that's what you want to keep doing, is just kind of, if you're not growing, if you're not doing new things, not experiencing new things, you're not growing, and I kind of hope to keep doing that. And got some more things that I'm hoping are in the hopper here for the next year or so, and knock on wood, stay tuned for that. But and most importantly, too, is about spending more time with family, and that became the big thing.
That's been very cool to see as you display that on social media, stuff like the JFPA thing on Friday night. And I've seen you at Canaries games probably more than I saw you before. So I'm super happy for that. I'm just happy to see you're happy, both professionally and personally, because I think the professional thing has helped the personal thing. And but you've earned it. And if you want to find Zach's stuff, it is at MidwestSportsPlus.com. If you go there, you can get, that's where if you don't have it already, you're not watching us on that right now, the Midwest Sports Plus app, where you can watch Zach's features, Happy Hour, Dom Izzo's show, Nate Brown's show, the South Dakota Sports Lounge, a once-a-week show that cobbles all those, the best conversations every week on those shows, plus Zach Borg's weekly feature. That's all at Midwest Sports Plus and MidwestSportsPlus.com. And, of course, that's also where people are going to be able to find and watch the games you'll be calling and I'll be calling live this fall. So, thanks, man.
Hey,
Appreciate
thank you.
you stopping by today.
Letting me pinch hit for Zim. Hope he's enjoying the lake, and hope you all have a good, happy 4th of July weekend.
All right. For Zach Borg, for video producer Cordell Wright, I'm John. Happy hour. Cheers.
You need anything else, John?
No, I think I'm good, Greg. I think I'm going to tap out.
All right. Have a good night.